I walked into the hall with 5 printed programs, each one with a name I love. The plan was simple: show up, sit down, say my name, smile. I'd saved the middle row for us. 5 seats together, 5 little rectangles tucked beneath the chair legs like place cards for a family that always runs late. I kept staring at those 5 chairs, and in my head I named them the empty row. The lights softened, my phone stayed quiet. No "on my way", no "parking". A woman in navy asked if I wanted a picture. I said yes. She framed me against the stage and pressed the shutter. I smiled the way you smile when you don't know where to put your hands, then glanced at the space beside me. 5 names. No one. I opened social without thinking. First video. Vin's pool party, blue water, loud music, a rented deck, my mother waving, my father toasting, Colin chasing Theo, June squealing as a splash hit her book. The caption said, "Family first." I laughed once. It didn't sound like mine. A vibration, voicemail from Colin. "Hope you'll forgive me after tonight." A little banner flickered like a dare. At 7, you'll hear the full voicemail. I stared at the time as if looking could pull it closer. I pressed play anyway. The audio stuttered, then steadied, then skipped. "Don't come because..." Static chewed the rest. An usher gestured for seats. I set the unused programs back down, an offering, a dare, and breathed. 48 hours earlier, I would have called this a misunderstanding. Tonight, it felt like a thesis about me. 48 hours earlier, I was practicing how to say thank you without crying. 5 years of night shifts and online classes had left grooves in my days like water carving stone. I studied on lunch breaks, I typed papers at a kitchen table that hummed with the refrigerator and the blue light of cartoons, and I slept in stolen halves. This degree was the one thing I had kept for myself, a small flag I planted in ground I'd been told wasn't worth tending. I treated the ceremony like a promise I could touch. I logged in the minute tickets opened and grabbed 5, then printed simple place cards to tape to the backs of chairs. I booked a modest dinner nearby, no speeches, nothing dramatic, just a table we could gather around and say, "We made it." I even found a corner of the atrium with good light and a clean wall, the sort of spot where families line up after to take a "we were there" photo. Colin told me he was proud. He said it when I was already half asleep, which is when praise sits deepest. "We'll make a night of it," he murmured. My parents hedged. "Ceremonies drag on, dear," my mother said. "Kids get bored," my father added, like weather we couldn't change. I tried to be generous. "We'll bring snacks, it matters to me." They said they'd manage. The day before, our family chat pinged to life. Vin, always the son at his own party, announced a pool day. Casual drop-in, music, food, with a glittering photo of blue water. Someone started a poll, half joke, half dare. Mara's ceremony versus Vin's pool party. The little bars rose and fell, then settled on the party. I watched the votes tilt like a table with one short leg. I typed, "My ceremony is at 6, then erased the next 4 messages I wanted to send. I taught Theo and June a tiny routine. Clap when you hear my name, maybe whisper, "Go, Mom." Theo asked if it was like baseball. I said yes, but gentler. Colin squeezed my shoulder. "Trust me, tomorrow we'll celebrate properly." The words softened my doubt. "I don't need fireworks," I kept reminding myself as I packed my bag. "I need faces. Faces in 5 seats. Faces turning toward me when my name is read. It sounds small, but that's the point. All the big choices I'd made, leaving shifts early to make seminars, saying no to overtime, saying yes to loans, were really a reach for something small and stubborn, to be seen. Not applauded by strangers, seen by mine. The calendar flipped. Morning crept in, and somewhere a metronome I hadn't set began to tick. Patterns don't announce themselves, they seep. Mine looked like politeness. Don't make a scene. Let's keep the peace. It's not that big a deal. It always sounded reasonable enough that I agreed before checking what I'd just lost. In our family, Vin had gravity. If he threw a party, the day orbited it. If he needed help, we rearranged our hours, our meals, our plans. I told myself it was generosity. I told myself that being easy to love meant being easy to cancel. There were other moments, small but sharp. The summer I finished a certification at work, my parents sent a thumbs-up emoji in the thread, and then 50 photos from Vin's boat. When I ran my first 10K, Colin took a picture of my medal on the kitchen counter and captioned it, "Breakfast of Champions," next to pancakes he'd made for everyone else. None of it was cruel. It was air. It filled the room until my voice sounded like an echo against a wall no one else could see. Colin was never mean. He was kind in a way that preferred smooth water over honest wind. When tension rose, he changed the subject, fetched drinks, volunteered to run an errand. If my needs meant ripples, he tried to pat them flat with jokes. "Don't overdo it," my father would say. Colin would nod, grateful. I would feel the table tilt. The night before, I ironed my dress and practiced a thank you I could say without crying, the kids for clapping with their whole bodies, Colin for holding the late nights together, my parents for the first loan and the last pep talk. I mouthed it to the mirror, then to the dark, sanding off anything that sounded like need. In the morning, Theo ate cereal dry from a mug and asked if he could bring a marker to the ceremony. "To draw a star on the program," he said. June wanted to braid a ribbon into my hair. I told them we'd decide when Dad got back with the car. Colin had slipped out early. Errand, coffee, something helpful. He texted a heart. I sent one back. "Running late," he wrote an hour later. "Save our seats." My mother called to ask about parking, then pivoted into logistics for Vin's pool day. "We'll come straight after," she said. "We'll make an appearance at both." My father on speaker said, "Let's not make a scene." I promised I wouldn't. I hung up and stood in the doorway a long time, feeling the weight of a promise that no one else would have to carry. At work, my manager offered me a short internal recognition slot the next week. Bring whoever you want. I didn't tell my parents. I wanted the ceremony to hold all the seeing it could hold. Proof not from strangers, but from mine. Late that afternoon, a new message glowed at the top of the family chat. Vin again. A photo of the pool with the caption, "We'll swing by after, promise." Colin replied with a thumbs up and a time I knew he'd guessed. My stomach made the sound metal makes when it cools, a soft settling that hints at stress. When you live with avoidance long enough, you read white space, the text not sent, the call that ends too quickly. I felt it, like a draft. I checked my bag, water, tissues, programs, candy, the dinner reservation, and decided to trust the day. I put on my shoes. I chose not to rehearse disappointment. Minutes before we left, Theo brought me a sticky note that said "Go Mom" in the block letters. June slid a ribbon across the table and asked if I wanted help. I bent my head to her small hands. For a moment, I believed this would be enough to anchor the evening. Family first, right? Only whose version? The metronome I hadn't set kept ticking, louder now like a clock in an empty room. "Running late, save our seats," Colin repeated. I saved them. I saved myself a story about patience, and I stepped into the evening convinced that being seen would be simple. Walk across a stage, lift my eyes, find my faces, breathe. A soft countdown started in my head. The hall smelled like paper and perfume and the soft heat of people trying to be quiet. I set the 5 programs across our row and stood, then sat, then stood again, rehearsing how I would wave when I saw my family turn the corner. "Running late, save our seats," Colin had written. I saved them. I even placed the sticky note from Theo, "Go Mom," on the middle chair so he'd see it first. Before the ceremony started, I called once, then again, straight to voicemail. I tried my mother, she picked up, told me they were sorting parking and sunscreen, then added, "We'll be there, we'll make both, don't worry," and hung up before I could ask what both meant. On social, Vin's countdown stories stacked. 10 minutes to splash, 9 to grill, 8 to family first. My name would be called in under an hour, and in the tiny theatre of my mind, I was still directing our seats and the way my kids' shoes would sound when they ran down the aisle. I kept practicing their faces into existence. The usher signalled. The faculty filed in, a river of black with coloured stripes. Names began. It didn't take long for the rhythm to seduce me, the crisp syllables, the clatter of a few families whooped and then sat, the small hush before each clap. I held my breath the way you hold water in your mouth, just for a second, to feel its shape. I kept my eyes on the aisle, not them, not yet. When my name was called, I heard it in the precise way you hear your own name across a crowded room, like the floor decides to be still. I stood. For 2 seconds I forgot to look at the empty chairs. I forgot until the clapping came and it was strangers, and I smiled so the photo wouldn't tell on me later. I walked the 12 seconds I had been working toward for 5 years and took the paper that everyone likes to say is just paper. Back in my seat, I held the program open like a shield. My phone buzzed. Reflex. I looked. The screen pulsed with a live square. Vin, poolside, sun blazing. Evelyn crossed the frame with a tray. Walter jogged behind with towels. Colin cannonballed with Theo. June's braids flashed as she scolded them for splashing her book. The caption read, "Family first," plus a wave emoji. A heart reaction floated upward. I tried to keep up, to clap for the next person because it felt like the only thing that still counted as decent. My hands made sound while my mind split. In the other version, 5 chairs sat in a row like a question I already knew the answer to. I wanted to be wrong. After the ceremony, the atrium filled with hugs and tripods. A stranger, another kind woman, asked if I wanted her to take my photo. I nodded and moved to the clean wall I'd scouted. She counted down, lifted the phone, and before she tapped the shutter, my own screen lit like fireworks. 18 missed calls, then 23, then 45. Texts stacked, "Are you there? Call me. Colin's name filled the top line, then Evelyn, then numbers I realised were the hospitals. I answered without remembering the motion. "He slipped near the pool," Colin said, breathless. "We're checking his arm. He wants you." I barely remember the train, just a tunnel, the metronome in my ear sinking to the track like marching. In the window I watched a woman hold her face very still. The ER smelled like lemon cleaner. I asked for Theo and followed a corridor to a waiting room where the people I had set out 5 seats for looked up in the same instant. Colin stood first. "He's okay," he said quickly. "It's just a hairline. Maybe they're checking." He looked sun-tired, chlorine-tired, boyish in the way he counts on to be forgiven. "Thank God you're here," my mother said. My father offered his coat like warmth could fix category errors. "Not at my ceremony," I said. It left my mouth quieter than I expected, like a coin dropped into deep water. Evelyn's smile fell into something like scolding. "Don't start, Mara. Ceremonies are formalities. This is what matters." She gestured to Theo's closed door. The problem was the word formalities pasted across years of work. The nurse called for next of kin, and everyone looked at everyone else. "Mother," I said, and followed, but the glance I left behind must have said the rest. While we waited for x-rays, Theo sent me a voice note from the small bed where he lay and swung his feet. "Mom, are you mad at me?" The words came tiny, crowded by hospital sounds. I pressed the phone to my ear like it could be a hand. "No," I whispered to a recording. "I'm mad at a story." Back in the waiting room, Vin's phone lit up on the side table with a private chat preview. Just a line, just enough to sting. "We'll keep them here till..." The message disappeared. Colin's screen flashed too, then went dark. A new voicemail landed on mine and sat there like a sealed envelope with my name written in a hand I trusted. The waiting room hummed with vending machines and a cartoon on mute, the kind of background cheer that makes your chest feel louder. A toddler in dinosaur pajamas pushed a plastic truck in small certain circles. A man across from me slept with his chin to his chest, one hand clamped around a wilted bouquet. I counted the tiles between my shoes and the door, then started over. If I kept score with things I could see, maybe I wouldn't feel the ache of what I couldn't. Not yet, not yet. The metronome hammered. I swallowed and pressed play. The waveform rolled and then froze on a held breath. Because I wanted... I didn't hear the rest. Not yet. Something in me decided that hearing it in front of everyone was the only way it would be real. If a lie is for a crowd, maybe the truth should be too. I looked at the row of faces that had missed my name and felt the exact shape of the boundary rise in me like a wall I could lean against, finally, without apology. "Can you all sit?" I asked, strange politeness hugging every word. "Please, I need you to listen." Colin started to answer, a reflex apology forming. I lifted a hand. Not yet. The room hushed the way rooms do when no one knows whether to fight or forgive. The clock ticked like it was running out of me. I stood in the centre of their circle the way I had stood in the centre of 5 empty chairs, and I raised the phone to speaker. "Okay," I said, more to myself than to them, and braced for a voice I loved to tell me something I already knew but needed to hear aloud. I put the phone on speaker and turned the volume all the way up. The room went chapel quiet, faces arranged into careful masks. I didn't want calm, I wanted the truth. Colin's voice filled the space, easy and certain. "Hey, it's me. Best thing is to keep tonight low-key. She wants to be alone, she told me. So don't come. It'll stress her out. Tomorrow I'll do a surprise. Everyone there, way more fun for the kids. Save the energy for the party, not the paperwork." He paused. The message clicked forward. "Don't explain," I said. "Let the message finish." My thumb tapped. He chuckled on the recording. "She hates ceremonies," his voice said. "She told me, trust me." My mother tilted toward me, reaching for the old script where I soothe everyone else. "We meant well," she offered. My father stared at his hands. Evelyn swallowed. "We kept calling it keeping peace." She met my eyes. "We were keeping you quiet." "I never told him that," I said, and heard how flat my voice had become. "I asked you to be there. I asked all of you." Colin's face folded. "I was scared," he said, "of the kids fidgeting, your parents complaining, making it worse. I thought if I handed you a perfect surprise tomorrow, you'd forget tonight." "The boring part," I said. "The part where my name is said out loud." He nodded once, ashamed, still hoping shame could count as change. "Tell me how to fix it." Here is what I said, plain. "For the next 30 days I plan without including any of you by default. If you want in, you'll ask. You," I looked at Colin, "will apologise to our kids for lying about what I wanted, and you'll say it where they can hear you. And you," to Vin, "will post a public congratulations that names the work I did, not your party." Vin opened his mouth, then shut it. Something human replaced the shine in his eyes. "Okay," he said. Evelyn smoothed her skirt. "We thought—" "I know what you thought," I said, softer than anger but firmer than habit. "You thought keeping peace meant keeping me quiet. It doesn't." Colin's shoulders dropped. "I'll do it," he said. "I'll do all of it. I am sorry." If a surprise in your life turned out to be a lie, what would you do? One line, tell me below. That night I checked into a small hotel 3 blocks from our apartment. I didn't pack much. I took the diploma from its envelope and propped it beside an empty picture frame I'd just bought. Space reserved for a real apology with weight, for proof that showing up is a habit. I lay on the bed and let the quiet count me. I was with myself, finally sitting in the only seat that had always been mine. I slept without asking permission. 1 week later we met at a cafe. Colin arrived first, early. My parents came together. Vin slid in last, sunglasses on his head. I'm going to speak once, I said, wrapping both hands around my cup. Then we'll decide what happens next. I laid out the terms, simple and visible. First, a public apology to the kids for the lie. No hedging, said plainly where they could hear. Second, a presence. First rule, family milestones take priority. If you can't be there, say it early and say it clean. Third, no surprise built on lying, ever. Surprise is a ribbon, not a mask. No one interrupted, maybe because there wasn't room for debate, or maybe because the thing in my voice had changed. Colin nodded. I'll do it, he said, and he did. He filmed a short message to Theo and June right there, eyes steady, words careful. He told them he wanted to be a person who showed up on time. My mother cleared her throat. We were wrong, she said. Walter exhaled. No more polishing the surface, he said. Presence first. A few days later, my company held a small recognition. I reserved 5 seats in the front row and slid programs beneath them again, not as a dare, but as a map. The room was warm with the hopeful heat of people who worked for something they can't carry alone. When I stepped up, there they were. My parents sitting very straight, Vin tugging at his sleeve, Colin with his hands folded the way you do when you choose to listen. Vin cleared his throat and read, 5 years, more than 200 late nights, 56 assignments, 18 exams, and a mother who still packed lunches at 6 a.m. Mara didn't chase attention. She did the work. Tonight, we show up. He stumbled once, then kept going, and the room held him up. When I finished, Colin leaned toward our kids and said, Mum's milestones come first. Presents first. I want to hear that in our house like a rule. Theo tapped the program with his marker, a drum roll. June tucked a ribbon into my palm. Outside, traffic hissed. Inside, the only sound that mattered was the promise we were making out loud. It felt ordinary, which is why it felt new. At home, I hung 2 frames side by side above the desk. In the left, a stranger's photo of me holding a diploma in a hall that felt too big. In the right, a picture from the recognition night. 5 filled seats, Vin mid-sentence, my parents leaning forward, Colin watching the kids watch me. I stood there longer than made sense, letting the difference settle into the room. My phone buzzed. A message from an unfamiliar number blinked on the screen. No name, a picture of another ceremony from years ago, a young woman on a stage, 3 empty chairs in the front row. Under it, 1 sentence. This wasn't the first time. I watched the image until it felt like it might turn and look back. Being seen isn't a luxury. It's a promise kept. I tell myself that when old instincts want to smooth the water, when the word formalities tries to slither back into my mouth, I tell myself that showing up on time isn't a performance. It's the work of love. And if I ever doubt it, I have proof framed where I can't miss it. I typed back, "Whose story is that?" The typing dots appeared, then went still like someone changed their mind. A second later, a new text. "Do you want the older story? I don't know if I do. Not yet." But I saved the number, and I left the right-hand frame a little crooked, so I'd have to touch it again tomorrow. Some spotlights blind, the right ones simply let you see. Anyway,